Hi, thank you for being here today. My name is Jeff Sheps, Battalion 3 on B shift. With me is my co-chair in the Engine Company Functions RBO Committee, Tim West, Captain on Engine 18 on B shift. We'd like to start off today with taking a moment to thank the membership. We know organizationally the members are being asked to do more every single day. Every fire station in our city is running more calls, asked to do more on those calls every single day. We cannot thank the membership enough for everything that they are accomplishing in their day-to-day operations. Tim?
Thank you. I just want to give a little brief history about how this content or this training came about. Engine Company Functions, we've had a great group of individuals with the membership that has value in the training and the ideas that they bring to the table. One of them was Blue Door training. Now the next step in the from the group, and what they decided was this content that we're bringing to you, and hose stream management, hose line management, etc. Really grassroots level, get back to the basics and the fundamentals of being a good firefighter. That's where this stemmed from. We started this process about 1.5 years ago, developing this training. Had some pretty great feedback, and individuals step up and bring and develop this content to help make us better, safer firefighters. I think a lot of this is not new content, but it's actually seeing it, applying it, and seeing real life science with UL knowledge and content. Applying those science, the numbers, temperature changes, etc., to the actual things and task level stuff that we're doing. So with that being said, this is great training, and it's all about us using it, applying it, and practicing it to become efficient at it.
Organizationally, we're tasked with two things: saving savable lives and saving savable property. With that being said, firefighters can't do that work if they're hurt. We need to keep our members safe and strong and effective at the work that they're doing out there today. We know that everybody is being asked to do more and more every single day. We know that the conditions that our firefighters are going into are incredibly dangerous and get more and more dangerous all the time. We have the ability to provide these tools to you. Adding tools to your toolbox is what is one of our #1 priorities in the Engine Company Functions RBO Committee. With that being said, we would challenge you as the members to get out there and apply this work, get your sets and reps in out there in the field, and just know that organizationally, we cannot tell you how much we appreciate what the membership is doing every single day out there.
Once again, I just want to reiterate what Chief Sheps started us off with, which is thanking the membership. We see the numbers and the buck slip of the amount of calls that each truck is running, and everybody stepping up to the plate and working even more so than outside their shift. And I just want to reiterate and thank you all for your commitment to making the Phoenix Fire Department what it is today, which is one of the best departments in the country. So thank you.
Thank you.
The fire ground is a dangerous place for both firefighters and occupants. Fire dynamics shows that fires are reaching high temperatures faster than ever before due to the heat release rate of modern materials. Along with modern materials also comes an increase in materials inside of structures, which dramatically increases the BTU load available during a fire. These challenges on the fire ground require a solution to overcome the heat release rate and control the environment, which will make conditions more tenable and survivable for everyone on the fire ground. Phoenix firefighters can overcome these conditions by understanding how to better deploy hose, as well as when and how to apply water correctly. This training will focus on teaching a systematic approach to hose line management and water application that will be applicable to all hoses on a Phoenix Fire Department engine. It will develop the skills and understanding of how, when, and why these techniques should be used, and how to most effectively control the environment, making it more tenable and survivable for victims and for firefighters. Today we're talking about exterior streams and transitional fire attack. We know that our #1 goal on the fire ground is to create, maintain survivable and tenable and searchable spaces inside of the fire compartment. With that being said, we're going to demonstrate some techniques today that use the transitional method. With that, we're going to start with the second floor transition when our fire is fully exhausted out of that window. In order to create those spaces, we're going to be dropping temperatures from over 1,000 degrees to below 200 degrees, maintaining those survivable spaces for any victims inside while maintaining safe spaces for us to work in as firefighters. The transitional attack is still offensive and still aggressive. It is a tactic of opportunity to reduce temperatures interior for our customers as fast as possible. Transitional attack requires a straight stream at a steep angle through the front third of the window so that the water is directed at the ceiling and should have little nozzle movement as possible. The nozzle firefighters keep the nozzle steady and constantly assess the effectiveness of the water. Transitional attack actions allow gases to be cooled from the top down, contracting thermal layers, cooling gases in the room, and reducing temperatures by coating the surfaces. Water should be flowed as long as it takes to effectively cool the compartment, and when the line is shut down, it immediately advances to the interior before temperatures will rebound. In these examples, we see Phoenix firefighters using the transitional or exterior method to effectively cool temperatures inside of the compartment before advancing inside in a coordinated effort to reduce temperatures. Here's an example of transitional or exterior attack in improper technique. Having a stream that with a fog pattern with nozzle movement does not allow for the gases to coat the surfaces in the compartment and allow for that gas contraction and water droplet expansion properly. Now that we've seen the second floor transitional exterior attack, we're going to show it from the first floor. We know that in the city of Phoenix, most of our fires happen on single-story residence, whether it be residential or commercial structures. In this example, we have a window fully exhausting right next to our entrance into the structure. Using the transitional or exterior attack means that we're still being aggressive. Without being aggressive, temperatures will rebound and will not be effective. Remember, the mission of the Phoenix Fire Department is to save lives and property as efficiently and effectively as possible. This is not to say this is for every situation. Recognize the situation and use it appropriately. One thing to make sure that we're aware of is that exterior fire attack does not mean that we're not being aggressive on the transition. We need to make sure that we're cooling our environments inside the fire compartment as fast as possible and being aggressive to get inside, to kill that compartment and make sure that that fire does not rebound to its internal temperatures. With that being said, when fire is fully exhausting from this port right here, from this window, we're not going to be able to get too close to the window. We're going to stand back and use the window soffit to make that stream work for us. Is another tool for the toolbox that we can effectively use to rapidly reduce temperatures and prevent fire spread. Changing angles of stream to coat surfaces by taking a knee, using the soffit, hitting the ceiling, and not flowing into open spaces all create temperature reductions, allowing for effective fire attack. In Underwriters Laboratory's study of tactical considerations, they quote, "If the fire service understands fire dynamics and they understand the benefits and limitations of their tactics, then good decisions will be made on the fire ground that result in the best possible outcome for the mission of the fire service, life safety, property conservation, and incident stabilization." In these examples of exterior transitional attack, we're able to see water being placed into the fire compartment with a straight stream. In the corner, we can see interior TIC camera footage showing how the water is being dispersed across the ceiling and how the water droplets from a straight stream are breaking up to effectively reduce temperatures. This is a tactic of opportunity that is reducing temperatures and buying us time to make entry into the fire occupancy in a more tenable environment, as well as quickly reducing temperatures for any victims inside of the structure. It is up to us as professional firefighters to recognize conditions and utilize appropriate tactics for the best possible outcome on the fire ground. When working interior of a structure, we need to be able to work on two different techniques. The first technique we're going to talk about today is the hit and move technique. This technique is used when we're a distance away from the seat of the fire. We can see the seat of the fire, but we can't access that seat due to obstructions hoarding conditions, or we're just unable to get there because the heat is pushing out at us with that flow path. With that being said, we're going to be able to use our nozzle from a distance to distantly cool that fire and be able to bring those cool gases and that cool air back to us so that we can make tenable spaces to be able to move into that area. With that, our first and foremost technique for this is to be standing at all times. We know that's the most fast and aggressive way to put this fire out. Second to that is going to be on the floor where we're below that thermal layer so that we are working in a cool environment. We're able to move into the compartment of the fire and we'll be able to kill that compartment and confine it to its area of origin. In a 2017 study from the Underwriter Laboratory Firefighter Safety Research Institute on the impact of fire attack utilizing interior and exterior streams on firefighter safety and occupant survival, they quote, "During an interior attack, applying water down the hallway without a vent opposite in a method which entrains air can alter the flow path such that the hot gases are no longer flowing over the heads of the firefighters as they advance." In all these techniques, we're going to let our conditions dictate our actions. From this technique, we're going to be working from the floor. The reason we're going to be working from the floor is because we know that our hottest temperatures are up at the ceiling level. We're going to let that nozzle work for us by cooling, starting at the ceiling and working our way to the seat of the fire. When we reach the seat of the fire, we're going to be using our upside down U pattern wall to cool the environment from the ceiling, coating those walls and surfaces and making sure that our solid fuels are being coated with that cool water. With that, before we shut the line down, we're going to use our straight stream and bring it back across the ceiling towards us to make sure that we're continuing to cool the hottest part of the fire from the ceiling and let that water rain down the walls to make a cool and tenable environment for us to work in. Knowing that our highest temperatures inside of a hallway are at the ceiling, we start our fire attack working high and working towards the seat of the fire. With that, we know that our objective is to put water between the victims and the fire, and that water allows us to take, make, and maintain survivable spaces and prevent flashover by flowing copious amounts of water continuously. In these examples, we're using a tick camera inside of a burned building to show temperatures. Temperatures read by the tick camera are reading solid temperatures and are being reduced rapidly from over 1,000 degrees to well below the 200 marker, showing that there is survivable space inside of these occupancies. By flowing down the hallway, bringing that stream back to us, and then moving in to finish off the compartment fire, we're allowing us to have the best chances of survival for any victims interior of the structure. In UL's tactical considerations study, they quote, "Using the reach of the stream while advancing to cool the environment around and ahead of your position only has a positive impact on the environment for both firefighters and potential occupants. Applying water while moving and moving the nozzle in a pattern had the most positive effect on the area around and ahead of the advancing hose crew." In this example, a quick and aggressive interior attack was utilized to put water on the main body of the fire by pushing into the occupancy and putting the nozzle interior of the fire compartment. Here we can see an effective example of how we are able to change interior conditions by recognizing arrival conditions, having good hose line deployment, and proper water application. The next technique we're going to talk about is flowing while moving, or making the push. This is when we're on the landing strip into the fire compartment. When we've already cooled the environment, tenable enough for us as firefighters to move towards the compartment, that last landing strip, the last 10 to 12 feet of the fire pushing into the fire compartment is going to allow us to flow water and move at the same time. This is going to be the knee walk method. This is one of the most difficult methods that we can do as firefighters and requires lots of practice. However, it is the most efficient way to put this fire out and continue to allow these temperatures to be reduced and not to rebound. It's going to allow us to reduce temperatures from over 1,000 degrees to below 200 degrees, making these spaces tenable and survivable while preventing that fire from extending to other compartments within the structure. Flowing and moving leverages the power of the handline stream to overcome the fire and its byproducts. By taking control of the space on the approach, you're confining the fire and reducing the thermal and toxic threat, particularly for the unprotected victim. Keeping the line on while advancing maintains control over the environment. Simply put, The environment is reacting to us, and when the line is off, the fire is doing what it wants to do. In this clip, firefighters will be advancing into the compartment of the fire using the technique of flowing and moving. This technique allows them to cool the environment as they're advancing into the compartment while changing those conditions using an aggressive nozzle in a wall approach while sweeping the floor to move any debris in their area as they move into the compartment. According to UL's Firefighter Safety Research study in 2017, when flowing and moving, there is a constant cooling effect for the hose line, both around and ahead of the advancing hose crew. When the line is shut down to move forward, the cooling effect is no longer present, and temperatures begin to rebound ahead and around the advancing crew. Here's a list of sources used in collecting information for this video. The first source is ulfirefightersafety.org. This is a website that has training modules, studies and findings for tactical considerations for the fire ground, and has the ability for firefighters to log in with their city email to utilize the module that they have to obtain more information. Nozzleforward.com is a website provided by Aaron Fields from the Seattle Fire Department. Nozzle Forward is a class that is being taught all over the country. Nozzle Forward is a class for engine company crews. It is not a collection of technique. It is an adaptable system of hose line management and fire attack. It is focused around fighting fire, interior offensive firefighting, aggressive firefighting, for which we will never apologize. Aggressive firefighting is not the problem, it is the solution. That is a quote directly from Aaron Fields' website. Check out nozzleforward.com for more information. Kyle Ramagus from Engine Company Resurrection and his Facebook group is another place to find more information about a lot of these techniques, fire dynamics, and to improve knowledge about hose loads, hose beds, and hose line deployment. Volume 2, reference 202.12e, Water Supply and Fire Stream Management, 202.01 Standard Company Functions, and 202.01c Risk Management and Safety were all MPs referenced in the making of this video. Today, we're down here talking about nozzle and hose techniques. We have to give credit where credit is due for this training. Aaron Fields with Nozzle Forward from the Seattle Fire Department was a developer of all of this training. We encourage everyone to take a look at his stuff or attend his class if possible. With that being said, we know that the Phoenix Fire Department is an aggressive interior fire department, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we're saving lives and property in the process. With that being said, these techniques that we're going to show you today are going to help our members be safe and effective and professional on the fire ground. In addition to that, these are techniques that are for worst case scenarios. We know that we need to have multiple game plans for every firefight that we go into, whether it be standing up, walking into the building and putting water on the fire, or if the conditions dictate it's going to be pushing us down with advanced heat or flow path, we're going to be able to use these techniques appropriately to properly combat that fire and have a good, effective fire attack. With that being said, the first method that we're going to go over today is going to be the hip grip method. We're going to start out in the standing position. We're going to take a good wide base. We're going to get that hose about an arm's length in front of us so that our fingertips can grip the end of the nozzle. With that being said, the reason we want that line spacing is because as we open that bail, the bail is going to kick back to us. By having that line out in front of us, we're going to be able to effectively work that nozzle, have good maneuverability, and have effective reach with our stream. In addition to that, we're going to be able to have the flexibility to fight fire at all different angles within the structure. The next piece of this setup is going to be to have this back hand here. This hand is going to push into the hip, create a shelf with this back leg here, which is going to allow us to soak up that nozzle reaction. Let's talk about that for a second. Nozzle reaction is the pressure that's coming off the nozzle. With that, the higher the nozzle reaction, the harder it is for us to handle our hose lines. This technique that we're showing today can be used as a progressive approach for the 1 3/4 hand line as well as the 2-inch hand line. The better of a shelf we create here, the more our body's going to be able to soak up that reaction. We're going to be using our skeletal system, meaning our entire body, to soak up that nozzle reaction, as opposed to using just our muscular system, which we can do with just our hip, our grip right here. And Danny's going to demonstrate that technique. So just hold the improper. If Danny's standing with this technique, he's limited to his muscular system. He's using his bicep for the majority of his work. He's limited on his range of motion and his mobility, as well as this nozzle reaction is going to be pushing him backwards. If he uses the proper technique, gets that line spacing away from him, pushes into his hip, he has the proper technique, the mobility, and the flexibility to have proper and effective fire attack. The next piece of this setup is to take our hand here, and we're going to turn that bale in towards us. The reason that we want this bale facing us, number one, is for smooth and effective application. Second to that, it's a safety precaution. If there's a surge in pressure, if we're working off a gated Y or we have a sudden surge on the fire ground and Danny loses control of this nozzle here, this nozzle is going to be able to kick back and be able to hit him in the chest, or he's going to catch it with his hand, which is going to allow that safety measure to shut off the line appropriately so we're maintaining safe operations on the fire ground. Once this line is open, Danny's going to move his hand up right behind the hose package here, which is going to allow it to be one piece continually so that we're having safe and effective support and able to use that nozzle effectively. One last thing to note with this, as with all fire attack packages, we want to make sure that we're flowing water with a straight stream from the point highest to lowest. We know that heat, gases, and products of combustion move from places of high pressure to low pressure, meaning that we're going to find our highest temperatures over the 1,000-degree marker inside of an interior firefight at the ceiling. By flowing at the ceiling first and using our ceiling wall patterns, we're able to condense those temperatures using gas contraction and water droplet expansion to make sure that we're creating a safe and effective environment. Not only were these techniques critical into the firefight, but they've been backed up by UL's research with fire dynamics to make sure that there is science behind this evidence. The next technique we're going to talk about is the kneeling hip grip technique. Just with this standing, we're going to be able to use a good solid setup to have a solid foundational base so that we can open our hand line appropriately, flow water effectively, and that we're not going to be pushed around by that nozzle reaction and the pressures coming from that nozzle when we're reaching GPM over 150. With that being said, Danny's going to set up here. He's going to be kneeling on his back leg. His right leg is going to be down and his left leg is going to be forward. On his back leg here, his toes are going to be active, meaning that his toes are crunched up. This is going to allow his toes to give him a base to lean back on, and as we advance in the firefight, it's going to give him something to push off of so we can advance that hose forward. The center of his mass for his body is going to be leaning back on his leg that's down. With that, the nozzle reaction is going to be coming from the nozzle, again, going into a skeletal system and following into the ground, being soaked up here in the ground so that it's easier for us to maneuver that nozzle up front. Again, we have underhand technique here. We're going to make sure that we maintain this underhand technique for stability of the nozzle. We're not going to make sure that we come overhand. If we do go overhand, we're losing that range of motion, that flexibility, and we're going to be working harder. That's why we're going to maintain that underhand grip. Just with the standing nozzle, we're going to be an arm's length away. We're going to be able to have smooth application as we open that nozzle. So open that nozzle real easy, Danny. That's going to be the kneeling hip grip technique. The next technique we're going to talk about today is called the clamp. The clamp is used when we're going to be using firefighting for a longer duration in time. Danny's going to kneel down on one knee in his setup. His back knee is going to come over the top of the hose, and his foot is going to rest back. So he's going to be resting on his back shin bone here, pushing his ankle bone into the hose, which is going to push this hose into the ground, which is going to be sucking up all that nozzle reaction. If we move forward to look where his hands are, he still has his bale turned into him for the ease of application as well as for safety measures, and he's going to use his hands together to be able to flow that water simultaneously. If his hands are working in opposite directions, the hose is going to kink on itself, so he's going to be sure to use his hands to work together, and he can stay in this position for as long as it takes for the duration of a firefight. And that's the clamp method. The next technique we're going to talk about today is the clamp slide. The clamp slide is a great technique to advance a charged hose line interior of a structure while search operations or making our way to the seat of the fire. The initial setup for this method is going to be kneeling into the clamp. We're going to have our back leg over the hose line, compressing that line into the ground. Danny's going to take his left hand here and he's going to pull hard into his chest with the hose line while simultaneously kicking his right leg out in front of him. The next technique is going to be the hit and move technique. This technique is going to start in the clamp position, allow us to flow water from a distance. This water from a distance is going to allow us to cool the area of origin and cool that compartment with water as we are making those spaces more tenable and dropping those temperatures so that we can advance into the seat so that we can kill that compartment and put that fire out effectively from an interior operation. The next technique that we're going to discuss today is the knee walk method, or making the push, flowing while moving. This is the most difficult technique for us to master because it's a combination of all the techniques put together. We're going to be managing our nozzle, flowing water in an upside down U pattern while sweeping the floor in front of us. At the same time, we're going to be walking our way forward. This technique is to be used in worst case scenario, when that fire and that heat is pushing us down and we need to make sure that we're changing the conditions interior. When that black smoke is pushing 50% or more of the compartment, this technique can be used to make that push on that landing strip into the room. This technique is not made to go long distances. It's made to make short distances into the fire compartment, 8 to 10 feet, so that we can kill the compartment and keep that fire to its origin. With that being said, CJ is going to be in his setup right here. He's going to be set up in his hip grip method, be pushing his hand into his hip so that he's sucking up the nozzle reaction. His front foot forward is going to be his sounding foot. He's going to be able to sound the floor in front of him. He's going to scoot his heel back into him, and he's going to fall forward onto his knee. By falling forward onto his knee, he's going to bring his other knee up to his knee. By doing that, he has a stable base. At the same time, if you watch the hose and the nozzle reaction is still going into his body and going into the ground without being picked up behind it. With that being said, he's going to be having an active nozzle, moving that nozzle as he's doing so, sounding with his foot in front of him, scooting his knee back in, falling forward, and bringing his knee up. He's going to continue to make those small progressions until he reaches the seat of the fire and has extinguished that fire appropriately. We're going to watch CJ use the knee walk method while flowing and moving. A couple things to remember while using this technique is that while we're flowing water, we're starting our firefight at the ceiling, the hottest point of the firefight, using that upside down U pattern to coat the ceiling and the walls. As CJ moves forward, he's going to be sweeping the ground in front of him, completing that O pattern. By sweeping that floor in front of him, he's moving any debris and embers out of the way, clearing a good working environment to drag himself and his hose into that area. With that being said, we're going to make sure that CJ has proper mechanics and is slow and methodical in this process, which is allowing him to get the most gallons into the compartment as possible as fast as he can. The focus of this segment is going to be to focus on the heel work. That means the firefighter in position behind the nozzle person. This position is critical to the success of the operation on the fire ground. This person is going to have proper technique to help advance that line appropriately down the hallway and into the fire compartment. It's going to take proper spacing between the nozzleman and the heel person, as well as good technique to advance that line forward. In addition to that, having your line set up appropriately, exterior of the structure allows it to feed into the structure appropriately so that we can quickly and efficiently get to the seat of the fire. Here, our first firefighter is entering the structure using the clamp slide technique. This is when conditions are pushing us down to the ground. Our second firefighter, the heel person, is advancing the hose line with good line spacing and creating that space for that hose line to advance easily through the compartment into the next door by having that appropriate spacing and pushing that line forward. We're going to talk about appropriate line spacing and the importance of working together on the hose line to advance that line into a structure. Our nozzle person is going to be on the hose line here, set up in their position of choice. Brendan chose to be in the clamp slide position, so he's ready to slide forward. Andy is going to be the heel position. He's going to be set up appropriately, spaced out behind him, making sure that he doesn't affect Brennan if Brennan needs to flow water. If Andy's too close to Brennan and he picks up this line here, it's going to force Brennan to face his nozzle downward, which is going to give him an ineffective stream and ineffective reach inside of the fire compartment. By having effective spacing, we're able to have good, solid, effective fire attack while advancing that line properly. Andy's setup is going to be back here. Andy's going to have his back leg up. His front leg is going to be down, and he's going to be able to use that back leg to push off of. His front arm is going to be over the line. That's going to keep the line close to his body, making sure that he's maintaining contact with that line at all times. He's also able to use his arm to search out in front of him as we're advancing forward. The backhand is going to be an underhand grip. By being in that underhand grip, we're not going to be fatiguing ourselves by doing bicep curls or curling that line into us and pulling on that hand line. We're simply going to be using the weight of our body and pushing off that back leg to advance that line forward properly. In addition to that, it is critical that our nozzle person up front is communicating properly. When Brendan wants to advance this hose line forward, he's going to give a command of forward so Andy knows that they're going to be advancing line forward. And when Brendan wants the line to stop so that he can flow water, he's simply going to say stop. Let's take a look at that right now.
Forward. Stop. Forward. Stop. Forward. Stop.
Continuing with our hose line advancement, in this segment, we're going to show Brennan and Andy advancing the hose line and making a left-hand turn. When making a turn, it's critical that the person on the nozzle communicates back to his heel man that they're going to be making that turn. If Brennan says that he's going to be moving to the left, Andy is going to be pushing out to the right, staying in the same position that he is so that we're advancing that hose and they're able to professionally corner into the area of origin and they're not going to get caught up in the doorway in the advance.
Forward. Forward left.